Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you love mind-bending sci-fi, and drop a comment below. Would you side with the Galactic Council or Earth's apex allies? Now, let's get into it. They called it the Chamber of Eternity, a name older than half the empires represented beneath its towering crystalline dome. Light from a dying blue sun refracted through the chamber's vaulted arches, scattering across rows upon rows of delegates in shimmering robes, armored carapaces, and feathered mantles. No two species were alike, yet they were bound by a single fear, a single question that had brought them to this vote: what was to be done with the humans of Earth? Councillor Thrakesh of the Zaltari Confederacy rose from his coil seat, his emerald scales catching the fractured light as he addressed the assembly. His voice carried through the chamber like a blade drawn across stone. "Esteemed councillors, the evidence is irrefutable," he hissed, eyes narrowing to slits. "Humans have proven themselves an unchecked infection. They poison their own waters, scorch their soil, and yet they multiply. They war among themselves with weapons that could fracture moons. If left unchecked, they will bring ruin beyond their cursed death world." A murmur rippled through the chamber, hundreds of languages whispering the same worry. Delegates from prey species, delicate, herbivorous beings who valued the order the council promised, shifted uneasily in their seats. On the outer rings, security drones hovered, recording every syllable, every flick of a tail or twitch of a claw. From a platform of polished obsidian, Chancellor Veruin struck his staff against the stone, calling the hall to silence. His massive eyes, multi-lensed orbs that could see through lies as easily as air, fixed on Thrakesh. "You propose full extermination, Councillor. Not quarantine, not containment." Thrakesh lifted his chin, the frills on his neck flaring wide. "Containment has failed. You've seen the broadcasts, humans launching colony probes, forging alliances with fringe traders, hacking into council archives. They are not satisfied with their diseased sphere. They spread. And what happens when they reach a peaceful system and decide it's theirs by right? They are parasites with delusions of dominion." At this, a chorus of approval rose from the prey delegations. Representatives of the Kithari, small rodent-like people whose entire history was one of evading predators, squeaked their assent. The iridescent wings of the Avri councillors fluttered, releasing a sweet pheromone that thickened the chamber's air, a signal of fear, of agreement. But not everyone joined the chorus. In the far shadows of the chamber, beneath banners stitched with blood-red symbols, the predator species sat silent. Some watched with eyes that burned in the half-dark, others lounged like sleeping gods carved in muscle and fawn. They made no sign of support for Thrakesh's condemnation. They never did, until now. They never cared enough to speak. Veruin tapped his staff again, 3 sharp strikes echoing like distant thunder. "And so, you bring this chamber to its oldest dilemma," he said. His voice, though calm, trembled the very air. "To kill a world entire, to erase an intelligent species, it is no small decree. It demands a vote, and it demands unity." A councillor from the Etheli, a species of scholars who drifted on clouds of bioengineered spores, floated forward on gentle currents. Her voice chimed like glass bells. "Perhaps," she began, "perhaps there is still merit in isolating the humans. We could restrict space travel, dismantle their orbital stations." Thrakesh's tail lashed the marble beside him, leaving a deep crack. "And when they resist? When they strike back, as they always do? Earth is a death world for a reason, its children are born fighting storms, beasts, each other. They will not bow to our decrees. They will make us bleed to bind their chains." For a moment, silence reclaimed the chamber. Delegates shifted in their seats, some averting their eyes from the holoscreens flickering above the dais. One screen showed riots in human cities, another displayed orbital weapon arrays being calibrated, another still showed children, just children, laughing under an Earth sky. Councillor Ivril of the Sylvani, whose species knew no predator greater than the wind, whispered into her translator, her voice barely carrying. "Perhaps we judge too harshly. They are capable of compassion. Of art. Of sacrifice. Thrakesh bared his fangs in a semblance of a smile. They are capable of wrapping slaughter in poetry. They sing as they burn forests. They write epics about genocide and call it heroism. No, Silvani, your gardens will be ash when they decide they need your pollen for their engines. Chancellor Veruin surveyed the vast hall, the thousands of eyes, lenses, and compound orbs staring back. He lifted his staff. Then let the vote be called. By ancient accord, each faction must cast their will. Extermination or reprieve. As aides moved through the aisles, presenting shimmering slates to delegates, a low hum filled the air. It was not the usual hush of political dread, it carried an edge of static tension, a prickle at the base of the spine. Something was shifting. Near the chamber's eastern arch, a tremor ran through the marble floor as immense clawed feet stepped into view. The security drones reoriented instantly, weapons folding out with insectal precision, but none fired. They wouldn't dare. The first to appear was Cernak of the Raktal Pride Worlds, a feline apex ruler whose mane was braided with rings of gold and bones of fallen challengers. Beside him lumbered Growl, matriarch of the Ursid clans, her fur thick and scarred, her eyes glacial and unblinking. Behind them stalked Xyrus, empress of the Tyroraptor kin, scales glinting like obsidian knives. Predators. Apex among apex. Beings who rarely stirred for council trivialities. Now they advanced side by side, like storm fronts. The chamber fell so silent that even the drone hum seemed deafening. Veruin's staff trembled in his grip as he forced himself to stand taller. Raktal. Ursid. Tyrol kin. By what right do you break protocol and enter the chamber during a vote? Cernak's lips pulled back in what might have been a grin, or a threat. His voice rumbled through the crystal arches like distant thunder. By the right of kinship. The prey delegates recoiled, whispering furiously to their aides. Kinship? With humans? Thrakesh flicked his tongue in disgust. This is nonsense. You claim humans, of all creatures, are kin to predators. They are parasites, not hunters. Matriarch Growl's laugh boomed across the hall, deep and echoing. Parasites. The only parasites here are the ones who cower behind this council's decrees. Humans hunt. They bleed for their world. They face storms and teeth and steel, and they do not flinch.
Xyrus stepped forward, her talons clicking against the polished floor. She stared straight at Thrakesh, unblinking. We have watched them. Long before they knew the stars. We watched them stand against creatures that would devour them whole, and they did not submit. They do not run. They do not bow. They hunt, they protect, they endure. They are ours. A ripple of panic swept the prey benches. One Evri fainted outright, wings flopping limp over their seat. A Kithari delegate began squeaking at 3 aides at once, demanding to know if they should evacuate. Veruin's voice, though steady, cracked at the edges. You declare humans as protected? Growl nodded, massive head dipping like a boulder rolling down a slope. Protected and kin. They are the bridge between prey and predator. They stand where many of you could not. Thrakesh slammed his claw on the dais. This is an outrage. We are not slaves to Fang and Claw. The council will not be threatened. Cernak's growl stopped him cold. No threat. A promise. Touch the humans, and you touch us. In the high gallery, a young Silvani page stared at the predators with wide eyes, clutching her recording tablet so hard it cracked. She turned to her elder, voice trembling. Does this mean we won't kill them? The elder did not answer. His eyes were locked on the 3 predators standing shoulder to shoulder, their shadows thrown huge and flickering by the chamber's fractured light. Chancellor Veruin's staff fell silent at his side. He opened his many eyes, staring across the vast hall at the apex rulers who had, with a single stride, shifted the balance of galactic power. He could feel it, the ancient order unraveling thread by thread, all because a Deathworld's children refused to kneel, and the galaxy's fiercest beasts had decided that was worth protecting. A slow, thrumming hush settled into the chamber. The voting slates hung useless in trembling hands. A choice had been demanded, and a choice had been challenged. Beyond the crystal dome, the dying sun dipped lower, casting fractured, blood-red light over the Council of Eternity. Somewhere, far below, on a blue and green world spinning in the cold, billions of humans went about their chaotic lives, oblivious to the storm gathering among the stars. A storm that, for the first time, would not come to claim them alone. And in the chamber, one unspoken truth coiled in the air like smoke. This was far from over. Before we continue, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Do you believe humanity deserves protection, or has it earned the galaxy's fear? Let's find out. The chamber's silence was thick enough to choke on. Chancellor Verwin gripped his staff with trembling hands, lenses flicking between the apex predators gathered before him. Each stood like a monument of flesh and instinct, exuding a primal gravity that pulled all eyes toward them. Counselor Thrakesh slithered forward, scales rasping against marble. "You speak of kinship," he sneered, forked tongue tasting the charged air. "Explain yourselves. What claim do predators have upon parasites like humans?" Cernok's tail flicked lazily behind him, the golden rings woven into his mane clinking softly with each movement. His amber eyes settled on Thrakesh with the patient contempt of a lion watching a particularly loud insect. "We do not claim them as slaves or subjects," he rumbled. "We claim them as brothers. As hunters." The words rippled outward, slamming into every silent delegate like a shockwave. Whispers rose from prey factions, nervous, fearful, incredulous. The Avri delegates fluttered their wings in confusion, their antennae trembling with unease. Even Verwin's massive eyes narrowed, recalculating 1,000 probabilities at once. Graal stepped forward, her claws leaving shallow gouges in the marble floor. She moved with deliberate slowness, each step radiating ancient power. When she spoke, her voice rumbled through every ribcage in the chamber. "You see only their wars, their poison, their fire. We see their courage." She turned her massive head, addressing the chamber at large. "On my world, Ursid young are raised with caution. Fear. Hibernation teaches patience, but patience can turn to cowardice." Then came a human researcher. A small female wrapped in false fur, carrying metal tools and bright eyes. She walked into our winter lands alone. Her eyes softened, though her lips never moved from their grim line. My cub fell into an ice fissure. The others feared the depth, the cold. But this human tied a cord to her chest, and descended without hesitation. She spent hours beneath the stormlight, arms bleeding from stone and ice. When she rose, my cub lay alive in her arms. She set him down and collapsed before she could stand again. Graal's gaze flicked to Thrakesh, who watched with barely restrained disgust. "She woke 3 days later by our fire. When she left, she bowed her head to me, the first time I saw a human bow not from fear but from respect." The chamber remained silent, every ear and sensor trained on her. Graal stepped back, breathing deep as though the memory itself was its own storm. Xyrus moved forward, her talons clicking sharp against stone. Her eyes were slit pupils within dark pools, unblinking and cold. "You think humans do not hunt true," she said, her voice soft but edged like a razor. "You're wrong. They hunt not for conquest alone. They hunt to know." She flicked a talon across the air, activating a hollow feed behind her. Flickering into view came footage, grainy and atmospheric, of a human male crouched low in brush on a moonlit plain. Before him towered a tyro raptor, scales glittering in argent moonlight, its breath curling in dense white plumes. The raptor hissed low, eyes locked on the human, talons flexing into the soil. "He approached our nests with no weapon," Xyrus continued. "We watched, prepared to kill. But he laid down his spear, exposed his throat, and waited." On the feed, the raptor lunged forward, stopping mere inches from the human's bare skin. The human flinched but held his posture, trembling but unmoving. "He submitted," Xyrus whispered. "But not in cowardice. In understanding. He knew if he fled he would die. If he fought he would die. But if he showed he was not threat nor prey, only student, then we might let him live." The feed flickered off. Xyrus' pupils dilated, her gaze sweeping the chamber. "We did not kill him. We let him follow us for cycles. He learned our hunts, our calls, our seasons. When he returned to his people, they no longer hunted us with poisoned barbs or traps. They learned to take only the old and the sick. To cull wisely, not to slaughter blindly." She leaned closer to Thrakesh, her scaled face inches from his snout. "Tell me, Zaltari, how many of your young know the difference between culling and eradication?" Thrakesh recoiled, tail coiling protectively. His pupils narrowed to pinpoints. "You defend them with sentiment. Their minds remain savage. Their cultures, destructive." Cernok growled low, deep enough that dust fell from the vaulted crystal arches above. We do not speak sentiment. We speak truth. Humans are the only prey-born species to rise to apex by refusing to bow. Their courage burns hot as any star. Their violence, yes, it is raw, but they turn it not only against prey but against predators who threaten their kin. Growl's voice rumbled like rolling thunder. They protect. They grieve. They adapt. And they endure storms no other could. They are worthy.
Veruin watched them with ancient eyes, staff trembling slightly in his grip. But what you ask, it defies council decree. If we abandon the vote, we abandon order. Cernoch turned his golden gaze on Veruin. Then abandon it. Or watch every predator world withdraw from your council by dusk. The words dropped like meteors into the still chamber. Prey delegates gasped, some chittering in terror. A Sylvani emissary clutched her floating seat so tightly the petals bruised beneath her grip. The council's fragile order balanced on a knife edge, and now the predators pressed down upon it with claw and fang. Thrakesh slammed his tail once more, cracking another line into the polished marble. This is extortion. War. You would plunge us into chaos over vermin? Xyrus turned her head slowly, blinking once, twice, in her reptilian stillness. No. We would plunge you into chaos for daring to kill our kin. A low moan of terror rose from the prey benches. The Avri delegates began fluttering their wings rapidly, releasing stress pheromones that clouded the air with sweet rot. The Kithari squeaked rapid prayers to their underground gods. Even Chancellor Veruin felt his inner chambers flutter with fear. But amid the panic, a subtle shift began, a silent calculation rippled through the chamber's minds. Prey species, so long accustomed to predator dominance, now saw humans through a new lens. Not as erratic parasites but as extensions of their worst nightmares, newly sanctified with the word kin. Cernoch raised his massive head, mane shaking with emotion. You will vote. But know this, if you choose extermination, then every predator world will rise against you. Your trade convoys will vanish. Your safe lanes will crawl with our young. And when you call for help, none will come. Veruin's voice was barely above a whisper. You would wage war for them. Cernoch bared his fangs in a slow, terrifying smile. Not for them. With them. The chamber fell silent once more, but this silence was different. It was filled with 1,000 unspoken truths grinding against each other like tectonic plates. The humans were no longer distant vermin to be cleansed with a vote. They were the brothers of monsters. Thrakesh turned his gaze away, eyes flickering with frustrated calculation. His tail lashed once more, but the crack it created was thin, weak. He hissed softly, venomously. This is not over. Xyrus flicked her tongue out between her teeth, tasting his fear like perfume. No, she agreed, her eyes unblinking and ancient. It is only just beginning. Outside the dome, darkness fell across the starfields as the dying blue sun dipped behind the horizon. Inside, the predator delegations lowered their heads in silent accord, their shadows rising like a gathering storm. The prey species remained frozen in their seats, breathing fast, trembling, their votes momentarily forgotten. And far beyond this chamber, upon a small blue world of chaos and wonder, billions continued their lives unaware that across the cold void, the fiercest beings in the galaxy had spoken in their name. Unaware that the universe had just shifted beneath their feet, and that in the darkness between the stars, something had begun to grow, something vast, and ancient, and protective. Something that would not let them fall alone. Before we continue, remember to like, subscribe, and comment below. If Earth faced extermination, do you think apex predators would stand with us, or is humanity truly alone? Let's find out. The chamber hummed with a tension so taut it felt like the room itself might snap in half. Chancellor Veruin's staff trembled in his grip as he rose to his full towering height, lenses flicking between the predator delegations and the trembling prey species. Each blink seemed to count down toward catastrophe. Councillor Thrakesh's coils twisted tighter, his scaled face contorting with fury. You threaten war over vermin, he spat, his forked tongue flicking as though tasting rot. You would destroy the council's peace for animals who gnaw their own world apart. Cernak's mane rippled with silent laughter, golden rings clinking softly against his broad shoulders. His amber eyes flicked across the chamber like sunrise sweeping a battlefield. Peace is a lie told by the satiated to lull the starving, he said, his voice deep as tectonic plates grinding beneath oceans. You call them vermin because they refuse to kneel. They stand where your own young would drown in fear. Thrakesh struck the marble with his tail, another sharp crack echoing like a gunshot through the hall. Enough. Chancellor, call the vote. Their threats cannot be allowed to stand. Veruin's lenses flickered, his staff dimming as he lowered it to the dais. Councillors, the vote proceeds by accord. But first, as dictated by Apex Clause 17, the accused may speak in their own defense, if capable of communication. A ripple of confusion moved through the chamber. Prey delegates glanced at each other, antennae flicking, fur bristling, wings fluttering. Xyrus tilted her scaled head slightly, slitted pupils narrowing. You would bring them here, she hissed softly. Veruin shook his vast head. No. But we have a direct relay. He gestured to a robed aide, who activated a holopad with trembling fingers. The air above the dais flickered, glitching twice before stabilizing into the image of a woman sitting behind a polished wood desk. Dark hair framed her sharp features, and the insignia of the United Nations Defense Assembly glowed on her collar. Behind her, Earth's blue marble turned slowly against a black backdrop. Her eyes flicked over the chamber, wide with shock at the sight before her. For a moment, she said nothing, only absorbing the alien multitudes watching her across light years. Finally, she drew a slow breath. I am Dr. Maya Ishikawa, representing the United Nations of Earth. Her voice trembled slightly, but steel underlay it. I was told this is an emergency summons. Please clarify what. Thrakesh slithered forward, scales rasping. Dr. Ishikawa, you stand accused of representing a species deemed too violent and reckless to be allowed among the stars. We consider extermination to preserve galactic order. Her brows rose, and for a moment her lips parted in silent disbelief. Then she exhaled, voice tightening into iron. Extermination. Of 8 billion lives. 8 billion parasites, Thrakesh spat. Your kind pollutes your oceans, burns your forests, poisons your skies, wars without end. You claw upward from your death world with the arrogance of gods, knowing nothing of stewardship. Before Maya could answer, Growl's massive form loomed into the feed's frame. Her fur bristled with cold fury, and when she spoke, it was not to Thrakesh but to the human. Dr. Ishikawa, she rumbled, voice vibrating every rib in the chamber. Do your people know of us? Maya's throat worked as she swallowed, staring into Growl's glacier blue eyes. Of apex species beyond Earth. Only theories and rumors. The deep sky observers, some unconfirmed contacts, but... Growl nodded slowly, as though confirming a suspicion. Then hear me now. We know you. We have watched you hunt frost beasts across your tundras, watched you drag warmth from the bones of your slain to feed your young. We have seen you stand against storms that would flay our cubs to bone. You are small, fragile, yet unbreakable. Maya's eyes glistened as tears gathered, unfallen. Her voice lowered. Why are you telling me this? Cernak stepped into view, towering and golden-eyed. His mane brushed the chamber's crystal arch as he lowered his head to meet her gaze. Because your kind is kin to us. Because you stand where others flee. Because you bleed to protect even those who would harm you. Xyrus flicked her tongue, eyes flickering. Because they seek to erase you. And we will not allow it. Thrakesh coiled tighter, fangs dripping clear venom onto the stone. You reveal too much to this parasite. Growl's gaze snapped to him, cold as the heart of a dying star. She is no parasite. She is human. Maya drew another shaky breath. Why are you protecting us? Cernoc's voice rolled through the chamber like thunder across savanna plains. Because you do not kneel before apex predators. You do not poison them, as prey species do. You learn from them. You protect them. You see us not as gods nor monsters, but as brothers. Xyrus hissed softly, eyes narrowing. And because if they kill you, they kill a mirror of themselves they fear to see. Veruin struck his staff against the dais, sparks flaring from its base. Enough. Dr. Ishikawa, do you accept these alliances? She stared between the apex rulers, her gaze distant with horror, awe, and a dawning steel resolve. Do I have a choice? She whispered. Cernoc's eyes softened. You always have choice. That is why we stand with you. She wiped at her eyes, voice clearing with sudden force. Then yes. On behalf of Earth, I accept your protection. And I promise this, we will earn it. The chamber vibrated with a low rumble, as dozens of predator delegates vocalized their approval in their species' own frequencies, a chorus of roars, growls, clicks, and hisses blending into a terrifying harmony. The prey species trembled in their seats, antennae drooping, feathers flattened tight to their skulls. Thrakash slammed his tail again, cracking the marble deeper. Chancellor Veruin. They defy council order. This is insurrection. Veruin's lenses flickered rapidly as he calculated 1,000 branching futures, none without blood. He raised his staff with heavy reluctance. The vote proceeds as mandated. But know this, predators, should the council choose extermination, your worlds will be isolated, trade cut, privileges stripped. Cernoc's mane rippled in silent laughter. We hunted before your council forged safe lanes. We fed before your trade fleets crawled the stars. Isolate us, we will thrive alone. Touch humans, we will thrive upon your bones. The staff's crystal ignited with a flicker of cold blue light. The slates were distributed. Delegates reached trembling appendages to cast their votes, each touch sending ripples of light through the air above them. Prey factions voted quickly, terror in every motion. Apex predators moved with deliberate stillness, casting votes with claws and talons that could tear hull plating from starcruisers. Maya watched, silent, the feed flickering as council encryption swept her signal for protocol compliance. She spoke softly into the frozen chamber. You fear us, because we are what you could be, if you stopped hiding behind the idea of peace. No one answered her. The votes continued in heavy silence, each touch another nail driven into the coffin of an ancient cosmic order. Veruin exhaled, his staff dimming as the last vote flickered into place. The tally will take moments. Remain silent. In the stillness, Xyrus tilted her head toward Maya, her tongue flicking once. Prepare your kind, human. Should they choose war, the apex of 1,000 worlds will descend upon your enemies. You will not stand alone. Maya's lips parted. Her voice trembled, but not from fear. Thank you. Growl's great maw curved into something like a smile. Thank us by surviving. The final tallies began to glow in the air above the dais, lines of alien script assembling into numerical columns of fate. Prey species watched with bated breath, predator species watched with predator patience, and a human from a fragile blue world watched with eyes that burned brighter than the council's dying sun. Far beyond, Earth rotated in its cradle of darkness, cities flickering like neural sparks across continents. Billions dreamed their small dreams, unaware that in the cold court of eternity, their lives hung by a single, trembling thread. And in the chamber, the numbers continued to rise. Before we continue, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. If humanity was on trial for survival, would you accept help from apex predators, or stand alone to the end? Let's finish this story. The chamber's light dimmed as the final tally formed above the dais, glowing in lines of alien glyphs and cold blue numerals. Chancellor Veruin's staff quivered in his grasp as he scanned each line, his multi-lensed eyes flickering like a dying star. Around him, the delegates held their breath, some trembling in visible terror, others vibrating with silent rage. Thrakesh watched the numbers form with hungry anticipation, his tail curling tighter around his coiled body. His scales shifted with each pulse of his heart, green rippling into iridescent gold as adrenaline flooded his veins. "Read it, Chancellor," he hissed, voice trembling with vindictive glee. "Let us end this parasite race before they crawl further into our skies." Veruin's staff flared once, casting long shadows across the crystalline chamber. His voice resonated with an ancient gravity as he spoke. "Votes for extermination, 347. Votes for reprieve, 347. The chamber exhaled at once, a collective release of tension that shattered into immediate chaos. Prey delegates shrieked, clicking and fluttering in disbelief, while predator delegations rumbled with low, dangerous laughter. Cernok's mane shook as he tilted his head back, fangs bared in a silent roar of amusement. Growl's massive claws flexed against the marble floor, gouging deep lines through polished stone as she rumbled her approval. Xyrus flicked her tongue slowly across her teeth, tasting the room's panic. "Atai," she hissed softly, her voice cutting through the rising noise like a blade of ice. "And in Atai, predator veto holds supremacy." Veruin's lenses flicked rapidly as he recalculated protocols buried in millennia of council law. His staff dimmed, then flared bright again as he raised it high. By ancient accord, in a tied vote upon an extermination resolution, the Apex Predator Coalition may exercise veto rights if the extermination would violate predator codes of protection. Thrakesh coiled higher, his hood expanding wide in fury, scales glowing emerald and copper. "This is a travesty," he roared. "These humans will destroy all order. Their infestation will not end with their oceans. They will spread, they always spread." Cernok turned toward him, his golden eyes burning with predatory certainty. "They will spread wisdom born of pain. They will spread resilience forged in storms. Better that than the rot of cowardice you call peace." Thrakesh lunged forward, fangs dripping clear venom as he struck at Cernok's throat. But faster than thought, Growl's massive paw slammed down between them with a thunderous crack, claws slicing inches into the marble. Her fur bristled in wrath, eyes cold as polar ice. "Do not test the patience of bears, serpent." Thrakesh recoiled, hissing violently, but his gaze darted between the predator rulers and Chancellor Veruin, calculation burning behind his slitted eyes. "This is not the end," he spat. "You have doomed us all." Xyrus clicked her talons once against the stone, a sharp, final sound that silenced even the murmuring prey delegates. "No," she said softly, deadly calm. "We have saved what you were too afraid to understand." Veruin's staff pulsed with blue light as he raised it once more, his voice echoing across the chamber. "By Apex Veto, Resolution E-72 is nullified. Earth is granted provisional protected status under Predator Coalition oversight. Humans are declared an allied species, kin recognized, and afforded the rights of Death World sentience under Treaty Blackfang." For a moment, silence reigned. A silence so complete it felt as though the universe itself paused to listen. Then, one by one, the predator delegations began to growl, roar, hiss, and click in approval. The sound built into a deafening symphony, vibrating through the crystal arches until the chamber itself seemed to pulse with the rhythm of primal triumph. In the hollow feed, Maya Ishikawa's shoulders slumped as tears welled in her eyes. Relief coursed through her like wildfire, her chest rising and falling with ragged breaths. But as the predator's roars filled her ears, she straightened again, a steel resolve hardening her gaze. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling yet unbreakable. "Thank you for seeing us. We will strive to deserve your protection." Growl's rumble rolled through the hall like distant thunder. "Deserve it by surviving. By rising stronger. By never forgetting that the hunted become hunters by refusing to die." Cernok lowered his massive head until his golden eyes filled the feed's frame. "We will visit your world, human. We will hunt beside your warriors. We will teach, and we will learn. And the galaxy will tremble at what rises from Death World Earth. Maya swallowed hard, nodding as tears streaked her cheeks. We welcome you. As brothers. Behind her, Earth turned slowly, its oceans glowing sapphire under orbital dawn. Billions remained unaware that the universe's apex predators had just named them kin, rewriting humanity's place in the cosmic order forever. Thrakesh coiled tighter, his tail twitching with viperous fury. You are fools, he whispered, though no one listened. You've unleashed your doom. Xyrus turned her cold reptilian gaze upon him. Perhaps, she said softly. But better doom with courage than life in chains. Veruin's staff dimmed as he lowered it, exhaustion trembling through his ancient limbs. This council is adjourned, he declared, his voice carrying the weight of a star collapsing. May the gods of all worlds watch what becomes of us now. As the delegations filed out, predator species moved with silent, deadly grace. Prey delegates scurried and fluttered in terror, antennae drooping, wings dragging along polished stone. The chamber emptied slowly, leaving only the lingering echo of roars and the faint scent of predator musk. Xyrus lingered behind, her talons clicking softly as she approached Cernak and Growl. Her slitted eyes flicked between them, tongue darting once across scaled lips. We have changed the galaxy today. Growl rumbled deep in her chest. We have revealed its truth. Cernak tilted his head back, golden mane rippling like fire in the chamber's dim light. And tomorrow, he growled, his fangs glinting, we will teach it to hunt. They turned as one, leaving behind the fractured marble, the fading lights, and the shattered illusions of a council that believed it ruled the stars. Outside, predator fleets began to undock, warships and kinships alike aligning for jump to Sol. The cold void of space trembled under the gravity of what approached. And far below, on a fragile blue planet spinning in silent darkness, children awoke to a dawn brighter than any before, unaware that across the gulfs of night, monsters had chosen to stand beside them. Unaware that in a universe ruled by fear and hierarchy, humanity had been adopted by its oldest gods, the apex predators who bowed to nothing, who feared nothing, and who had just claimed humans as their own. The galaxy's balance had shifted. The predators were coming to Earth, not to conquer, but to welcome their brothers home.